My name's Andrew Knafel, and I own Clearbrook Farm. We're in Shaftsbury, Vermont, which is the southwest corner of the state. And I started farming here. Our first season was in 1995, and this was our 30th season this year. And we grow about 30 acres of mixed veg and small fruit. Sell most of our stuff through our farm stand in the summer, and also in the fall and winter we have CSAs, and we also do a bedding plant business in the spring. And we probably have maybe 11 greenhouses of different sizes and shapes and for different purposes. And yeah, we have a crew of about 25 people in the mid-season, and half a dozen to a little bit more through the fall or like winter part. That's our size and what we do, and we're certified organic as well. So
I'm your host, Andy Chamberlain, and I take you behind the scenes with growers who share their strategy for achieving the triple bottom line of sustainability. These interviews unravel how they're building their business to balance success across people, profits, and our planet. One ask I have for you is if you can leave a comment or write a review. There's a feature enabled right now called Fan Mail, so you can send a message via text to the podcast right from the link in the description. These come through as anonymous, so if you want to be known or would like me to reply, let me know who you are in the message. Give it a whirl. It's quick, easy, and free, and I'd love to hear from you. One of the latest emails I've received reads, "Now that I'm back at the greenhouse bench, I have been delving into the farmer's share. A lot of interesting revelations from the old guard buddies, but also being exposed to a lot of new folks who really seem to have a leg up. That Harrison Bardwell from Western Mass, he is one smart beyond his years dude. Anyways, thanks for doing this. All the best. Pooh." Today's episode comes to you from Shaftsbury, Vermont, where we visit with Andrew Knafel of Clearbrook Farm. As he just farmed for his 30th season, we reflect on how he grows on about 30 acres and in 11 greenhouses. He markets mixed vegetables and bedding plants, mostly all sold from his retail farm stand. We start off the episode with a look inside a couple of his high tunnels, talk about a large cooler build, and then hang out in the greenhouse during the December rain to reflect on how he got started and learn what sustainable farming means to him through the lens of his farming career.
do you want to go out and look at some winter growing greens?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's head out that way. Yeah, we just had a little bit of snow here, but it's going to be all gone in another day or two. So
yeah.
It's just like we're supposed to get all this rain. And
did you get your berries covered up last week?
I did.
Good.
I just got them. Yeah, we do round bales.
Okay, yeah.
And so it's just one person can do the field, but it's a slow chopper. So it just takes this time of year you work 4 hours, it feels like a full day.
Yeah. Well, when it gets dark at like 6.
Yeah, dark at like 4.
Well, yeah, dark in 6 hours. Is it
Yeah,
all,
right,
we don't
exactly.
have a lot of daylight.
Yeah, so we've been, it takes like over like 4 days to do. I don't know, we do we space our berries far apart, so our rows, so it's probably less acreage on some people's place, but we do like 1.25 acres. And but it's only like 8,000 to 9,000 crowns,
Okay.
So, but it takes a while it's slow chopping, and sometimes the chopper will chop a bale really efficiently, and other times it seems like the bale's sitting in there in a weird way, and it's just like forever, to get the bale done. And so, so that's always, it's a good November. Well, later and later now it's December job. So
you switched from using one of...
Oh, someone gave me that wick chopper years ago, and it's been sitting in the bushes because that thing was really slow, and it was totally inefficient. I know that they have other ones that drop it out the bottom, that shoots at the side, and that thing is takes forever. But yeah, we used to do it by hand, so it's a lot better than that, I think.
Still like 1 acre by hand?
Yeah, back then we were probably doing like 3/4 of an acre.
That's a lot.
But once we started doing pick your own, we kind of upped our production a little bit, and so we're just kind of keeping us So, it's a great June crop. Deer fence everywhere.
That's nice.
Yeah, nice and not nice.
Yeah.
It keeps the deer out and the coyotes in.
Oh.
Well, no, the coyotes get in and out too, but coyotes love sweet corn, so.
Really?
Yeah, they're like our worst sweet corn pest. So.
I've not heard of coyotes being an issue.
Oh yeah.
Coons and bears get into ours, but.
Oh no, coyotes they're like the worst. And we have raccoons, but when the coyotes discover a block, they'll just shred it. And the only thing about them is you'll have lots of blocks in like one field. They'll find one block and they'll just sit in that whole block the entire time.
Yeah.
So even though you've moved on, they're still stuck back there, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can do a lot of damage. So. But we had a bear last year get in the deer fence, and that was did some damage, and there's always raccoons and skunks. There's always a lot of stuff. But so this house, we're doing a winter CSA like most people, and or not most, but a lot of people. And
Yeah.
so this house, this year was so nice outside. We haven't really been in here. We just picked some beet greens, and I think some arugula out of here. But starting this week, we'll get into this house pretty much, and start using some of these crops. But it was such an amazing fall that it was, it wasn't much need of this house.
Yeah.
But,
Boy, this is nice.
yeah, I love this red mustard. The customers don't love it, but I love to eat it. So I grow more than we need, and I can eat some.
Well, I think, you've got plenty for your own plate.
Yeah. I don't know. I eat a lot of red mustard. Yeah, so this house we put up like 10 or 11 years ago. It's a really nice house,
Yeah.
And I like the big size, the larger size. It holds its temperature. Everything is like very slow to change, so it's a very consistent environment. But
How big is this one?
it's 42 by 200,
Okay.
and
Big Harnois.
yeah, it's a Harnois. Yeah, and yeah, now the same price I can get one that's 42 by 96. I priced one out.
If only you knew that 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh. But one thing I really like about our house that we did was we put that polycarbonate in the middle bay between the two ends, so that when we're skinning it, we're not skinning with a 200-foot piece of plastic. And we just do 100-footers, and you could kind of climb up on the polycarbonate, or we attach a ladder to it. And so it's like a middle, it just makes it so much easier to skin, because those really heavy rolls of plastic, that can be, so we can do half the house at a time.
Yeah.
Really, we do a quarter. And
Right.
but that was a really nice thing we did. And what else? Yeah, I don't know. We've gone to the clipper system, and been doing that for maybe 10 years. Well, basically since we started growing in this house, we've been using the clippers, and it's good. It's quick to take down, and yeah, we probably are not using it the efficient way it's supposed to be used, but we do what works for us to some degree, and yeah.
I hear some people really like that system and some don't, so.
Yeah, we're kind of in the middle.
Yeah. You've got it, and it's part of your system. But.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. In many ways, it's really great because you get on the wire, and now they make a really long wire like those there.
Okay.
Those are almost like 6 feet. And so you get your tomatoes or cucumbers on that wire right away. And then it's just really so much easier to use. And instead of using 2 clips, we'll use 3 sometimes. And we'll keep one at the bottom once it hits the wire, and then we use the other 2 to climb.
Okay.
And then we, sometimes we'll lower it down. We started really lowering a lot of cherry tomatoes this year, and that was great. It made it picking so much easier, because our wires, when they're up at 11 feet, it's hard for people to reach that, and we don't have a cart and stuff.
Right.
But the other thing, in here we used to grow this would all be like Geronimo buffalo, back in the day, buffalo, but Geronimos and on Maxifor. But now we do like just a couple rows of Geronimos and everything's cherry tomatoes, and high looms. But we sell so many cherry tomatoes, so we just, so we do 1,400 foot. We grow rows only halfway, so they're 100 footers, and we have 14 beds in the house, and I'd say 7 of those are cherries, and 2 to 3 are regular reds, and 3 or 4 are high looms. But the cherries, and then we have 2 more plantings of cherries in other houses. So we've really gone to growing a lot of cherry tomatoes. Like we sell so many. I always think we'll never sell all these. There'll be flats and flats in the tomato room. And then I'll go in there one day, like, what do people do with the cherry tomatoes? And like, oh, they sold. I'm like, oh.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, but like regular tomatoes, we won't even sell, 3 flats a day sometimes, which is just like, it used to be like that was, especially when we first started and we grew buffaloes, the tomato tasted so good that people were just phenomenal, they were just fanatical about those tomatoes. But.
Are you all retail?
Yeah, we're pretty much all.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a little bit of wholesale, tiny bit of wholesale, and we do some a little bit like CSA and food, like food programs to like people who are taking English as a second language class in Manchester. There's like a 30 or 27-30 share like CSA up there. So people who are here working in like a lot of the like hotels and restaurants in Manchester who don't speak English, and so they're taking English as a second language, but they're not getting really good food. So we're through the Vermont Food Bank partnership, we've been supplying like a weekly share for some folks in that class, and so but basically it's through our farm stand.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much everything.
Wow.
So yeah, and which it took a while, but our farm stand's pretty busy in the summer. And then we also do a winter CSA. We have, or a fall. We close at Columbus Day, and then our CSA runs till Christmas, and then we have another one in January and February. So, and then we start with plants and bedding plants and all that stuff.
Off and rolling again.
Used to be we'd be done at Halloween, but
yeah,
that was a long time ago. So yeah. Any questions or anything you're thinking about?
No, this is a nice tunnel.
It's really nice, yeah. It really grows great crops. I mean, it's amazing, the difference. Like, you could start stuff here later than all the little houses we grow in, like, because it just grows so much faster.
Oh, okay.
And I think because it just keeps a more constant temperature, and I don't know why. It seems to be, but yeah.
Are you hand planting everything in here?
We direct seed a few things, but we're really pretty much using the paper pot transplanter, which we started like 3 or 4 years ago, and I love the paper pot. It's one person, Rosie, she like seeds them all, and don't take this is the bad looking spinach, but because it's over in this edge, I think it got flooded a little. We had a rainstorm come in with a side up. But anyways, we pretty much do all our greenhouse stuff from transplants. Okay. And certain things like that are planted further apart, like are very like cucumbers are with a bigger plug. We don't use paper pot, but in the fall, like all our greens are pretty much transplanted with it. Yeah. So we really love that thing.
Nice.
But we did like these mustard. I think I direct seeded those, and there's some cilantro down. No, the cilantro was transplanted, but the arugula was direct seeded also. But pretty much, we try and grow as much from transplants now as we can. We're pretty much even in the field. We don't use the paper pot in the field, but we do. We grow mostly transplants. So obviously carrots and
right.
lettuce mix, like some lettuce mix. We do salanova.
You transplant the commonly transplanted plants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you got it. Yeah. But, so I can show you some other things. We've got, so we've been doing, we have a couple fields of blueberries. So the one over there is our second planting. We planted one in 2009 behind this house south of here. That's, I would say, it's doing okay, but it's just a weed. I didn't manage it well. So it's just, we're always just like, it's tough. But this field, the second field, I was really very careful about how we prepared the field for a couple years. And then been using, on the south field, we were using like weed mat, and it just didn't work so well for us. But this we're using mulch, and I probably have the crew go through like once a month, and they'll just weed it, and all the little weeds. And really, we're keeping ahead of it. Like it takes like maybe 4 people go through like for an hour and a half, and they'll weed the 10 rows, and then we do that a few times this season, and it's just really
Manageable.
clean. It's really amazing. I'm
Just
sure.
wood mulch.
Just wood chips.
Yep.
And which so we rent that mulcher from Olesco,
Okay.
and for like it's like cost us like $400 or $500 to rent it and to mulch. What's that? 3/4 of an acre, and the other field's 3/4 of an acre. So, it's like nothing really. It's
Yeah.
so much, it's so easy, and it's such a nice machine. And then we spend a few minutes smoothing it out. And over the old field, we're switching back to mulch, to using wood chips.
Yeah.
It just seems like it grows for us, it grows better.
I've found trying to remove old landscape fabric is a terrible chore.
It's horrible. Yeah. That's why we only do like 3 beds of spring.
Yeah.
Like I send the crew out there because I couldn't torture them for more than 3 for like 3 rows, and then they wouldn't work for the rest of the year. But luckily, I got an awesome crew, and
That's good.
so they're gung ho. But I still like to be kind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, old landscape mulch. Oh, I hate that stuff. So we have other houses with stuff growing in them. But,
Yeah.
this house is sort of the most interesting. So we farm this field. This is our home farm, and we started here in 1995 was our first summer growing, and we grew maybe an acre, and we had 1 greenhouse for bedding plants, and but now we have a bunch more greenhouses, of course, and we lease a field up the road north that's like 15 acres, and we bought another farm that was land trusted with a deal with the Historical Society. I bought this building, and we got the farmland, and we have about another 35 croppable acres there.
Wow.
And so we have a total of like 45 to 50, but I'd say we only do 28, 30 in veggies every year, and the rest are fallow/cover crops. And, they all have deer fence because the deer are really bad around here.
Wow, that's a lot of fencing.
There was a lot of fencing. But I mean, we couldn't grow past August. There was like a couple of years I just had to do it because the deer were there's like we're between the 2 mountain ranges, so the Taconic's there, and the Green Mountains are there, and the deer would come down to the valleys and just like, I mean, I literally one night I counted 40 deer in this field alone, this like 3-acre field, and I was just like, okay, I'm done.
That'll decimate some.
And they were in, like, we had electric fence with peanut butter and stagger. No, it didn't work. So,
Yeah.
So,
There's something to be said about solid, permanent fencing.
my only comment on that would be, leave enough room on the backside outside the fence to mow. We didn't do that on like this field, and so it's a real pain because there's definitely a lot of fence maintenance.
Yeah.
In terms of like, well, down here we have a real problem with bittersweet. It's like taking over everything. It's a wicked vine, and super invasive, and so the crew spends 2 or 3 weeks every fall, like starting now in like December, we just go through and try and clean off all the fences because it just gets out of control. And so even with mowing, like some of the fields that we can mow behind have problems.
Yeah.
because we weren't really paying attention for a year or two, and then it was like, oh, we got to deal with this. So now it's just a perennial problem. But so it's great in many ways, but it definitely isn't like maintenance free.
Right.
At least for us. I mean, if you don't have bittersweet, don't buy any bittersweet wreaths for holidays, because someone will throw it out their back door and it'll become a menace.
So what's the downside of having your fence rows get all covered with vines?
Well,
just that it creeps into the fields?
No, well, it can tear the fence down.
Oh,
it's so thick. Like if you're not careful,
I see.
Yeah, it'll just tear. Like it just adds so much weight.
Is that a metal fence or plastic fence?
It's metal.
Oh, okay. And wow.
Oh yeah, it'll pull that down.
Jeez.
Yep. Yeah. The bittersweet's wicked, and then all the if you're not mowing up close, like little trees start growing up. You got to just kind of. It's like nothing is maintenance free.
Right.
Even if it doesn't move and it doesn't has an engine or anything, it still takes maintenance.
Yeah. And nature does take it back.
Yeah, oh, totally. Nature's like, hey, something to grow on.
Yeah, thanks. Trellis me.
Totally, exactly. Yeah, I should put like hardy kiwis on there.
Yeah.
But you can see these vines don't look very much. I mean, this is
not
actually
December,
grapevine here, but it can. And grapevine's easy to pull off, but the bittersweet rather is really it's a pain.
How big is your crew?
Well, right now we're we're down to, but
generally in the
midsummer we have like 25 people, because our farm stand is open 7 days a week, and so there's all sorts of shifts that go on in there. But I'd say the farm stand's maybe 7 or 8 of those, and some people are part-time. It's not all full-time, but 7 or 8 of those folks are farm stand, and then probably the rest are doing field, and it's 7 days a week, so we need a field crew here every day, and some people want 2 or 3 days off a week, of course, and so so between all that, we generally every day we try and have 8 or 9 field people, and probably whatever it takes in the farm stand, 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
It can be pretty busy, so we at least have 3 people once we're set up, through the day, and we have chefs and things, like a real job. So, but for the farm stand, just because it's between opening and setting it up and then closing it down, it's generally a 10-hour day. So we used to have one person would just do that, or 2 people would just. But now we don't do open to close for the crew. It's just too much.
Yeah.
I mean, my manager does, because she's a workaholic who can't stop. But
so what's a typical shift then? Morning shift and afternoon shift?
Yeah, basically some people come into work till 1 or 3, and then other people come in around 1, and they work till 6, when it's all put away.
Yeah.
And our farm stand closes at 5:30. And so it takes half an hour to put away. So and it's a lot of stuff to move. So it's nice to have some. Ideally, have 3 people helping put away. Just otherwise, they're here till 6:15, which is just tiring after August. So, and that's when all the heavy stuff's in the farm stand. So just whatever we. Sometimes it's 2 people putting away. Sometimes it's 3.
Mostly putting stuff back in coolers.
Yep, back in the cooler. Putting all the dry goods back in bins so the mice. It's not we don't have mice, but you never know. You might have a mouse, and so if a mouse happens to wander into the farm stand, we don't want them to see any food. So we put all our stuff. Most of the dry goods away, and it's just all that kind of stuff. So I could show you though. This greenhouse is our number. We do bedding plants in here, but then we convert it to our fall processing, winter CSA process. Instead of, we don't have a pack shed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people. So in the summer we wash all our produce on the back porch.
Okay.
Of the farm stand, and then. And then in CSA time, and then in the summer we also have the table washer in here, and so we can wash peppers and, tomatoes and squash and stuff. But, yeah, we do cut our greens and we wash them in here. And yeah, it works, it has multiple uses, this greenhouse. And, but we'll be in here with bedding plants in the spring. And, this was the first greenhouse I put up, and it's still here. It got pulled out of the ground by a tornado, and but got it back in, and it's it's still functioning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're not very high tech in our washing, but it seems to it gets it done. We got these Cemex spinners for greens. We didn't, instead of building our own, but they, they're pretty nice. They're stainless and fairly efficient. And,
Cemex spinners.
Yeah, Cemex, whatever to pronounce. Yeah.
It always kind of surprises me at how many farms doing 30 acres of veg barely have much of a wash pack space. We'll just throw some equipment in the back deck or in the end of a greenhouse and run with it.
Yeah. I mean, for us, we're not doing wholesale, so we do all that acreage, but it's not like we're harvesting an acre a day, and then turn it over. It's like, well, pretty much every day we need, we try not to pick everything every day, but you're getting a little of this and a little of that, and then it's going out retail. So you're not packing cases and cases. Exactly. So, I mean, we do have probably a mixed blessing purchase was a carrot harvester. So now, an old carrot harvester. And so we grew a few too many. I mean, we did that maybe 8 years ago. And we grow a lot of carrot, for us a lot. It's like for anybody else, and, but we had a lot of carrots this year. So, that it's nice to have the washer, and we get it. But a crew can pick up, we'll harvest, takes about 5 minutes to harvest a 400-foot row, and it's generally around 650 pounds. And, a crew of 3 or 4 will pick it up in 20 or 30 minutes and wash it in another hour. And it's just that's not bad. It's all manual. We put it on a scale. We don't have a scaler or whatever those things are, but it's good enough for us. And I wouldn't want to do much more than what we do that way, but and I think next year this year seemed to be a great carrot year, and the yields were great and the quality was really good, and so it doesn't normally turn out that way. So we have a lot, surprisingly. But
I do see a nice trolley system. How do you utilize that? For the hose, I see.
Right, so we use the hose and then we have the cart.
Okay.
And, because it's nice, but I'm not sure the crew, we don't always use the cart when we're moving plants, but we could when we have it and when we remember. But, I think I got it last year. So after 28 years of doing something one way, it's hard to remember we don't have to carry, 2 or 3 trays at a time. We could get that trolley and move whatever it is, 10, but we always figure that out after we've already done it. I mean, not to sound
fair enough,
totally inept, but that's kind of how it rolls. So, and then maybe I'm just trying to think what else I could show you. We put in a nice walk-in cooler back in early COVID years, and and I'll show you that maybe. And so this was our 30th season, and I've had people working for me for many years. So I think Adam's been here. This is his 24th season.
Whoa!
And Becca and Brad have worked 20, I think, and then Rosie and Ben have worked 10 years, and Greer, my manager in the stand, is I think 13, and so really, the farm really runs. Those folks run the farm and keep everything going. And
that's super helpful because They know what they're doing when they come back the next year.
Oh yeah,
They know the farm.
Yeah, they know the farm, but and they remember things that I forget, And so, no, we do it this way, Andrew. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or they'll develop their own way of doing things, and oftentimes better than what I would think of. And so I'm really, really super indebted to, and there's been all these other people over the years who've worked 4, 5, 6 years,
Yeah.
Who then go on to other things, but like those folks really make this place what it is, and I would say the thing about having a farm stand is, as most people know, or even a CSA, but it sort of becomes like a community, it's an important community resource, and like our customers, just like probably most places, they come to count on you as you're the supplier of food for your area and stuff. So,
Yeah.
And then they also start to know all the employees who've been here for so many years, and people don't even know I'm the owner. That's my goal. And so just to like, we really, I'm grateful for for all the effort that they put in and contributions that all those folks have made over the years. It's so important for
Yeah.
us. And, my wife doesn't work on the farm. She's an artist. She illustrates and writes kids' books. So, she does help with perennials and does cut flowers and
Yeah.
does like art, designs a new T-shirt every year and does all the art in the farm stand and stuff. So she is, but she's not part of the day-to-day operations.
Right.
And so I really, I rely on all these other folks because it's way more than I'm able to manage and keep track of.
Almost 20 times more than what you could do.
Exactly. And so, I just want to put that out there. Like it's like and we hopefully compensate our help well enough that they can, they're still here after all these years. So hopefully they're making enough of a living.
Yeah, that they keep coming back.
That they keep coming back and contributing as much as they do. So.
Any H2A or all local?
All local.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
No, I've never had H2A, and look, some years local it's a little bit harder to find like kids, but it always sort of works out. People sort of show up. I'm always thinking, oh my God, what are we gonna do for strawberries? And then like 5 people will apply for a job. And then some kids start young, and I've had high schoolers.
Right, you're keeping a significant number of your crew.
Right, like Adam, he started in high school, and he went and did a few other things for a couple of years, but he's like, and same with Brad, they started in high school, and we try and kind of foster that kind of vibe,
Yeah.
and let me show you, just this cooler's been great for us, because I was going to do a big wash pack shed with a cooler, and then I decided not on the wash pack because we like to work on the back porch in the summer, because it's outside and it's looking over the pond and
Still in the
stuff.
shade.
It's still in the shade, and but the cooler part, I still, for our storage for like CSA, we used to like store stuff in that little cool bot, like truck body out there that's like a 10-footer or something, or a 14-foot, and we still put onions in there, but so then we put this in, and I'll have to say it was really worth the money. I think we did the whole, like the new barn edition and the cooler for, I think it was about $70,000, which seems like a deal to me, because the cooler is, I'll show you, we can stack, it's not super tall, but we can get 3 bins in there. And the one thing that I really like about this cooler is that I talked to our refrigeration people, and they set it up so that it's not very dehydrating.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Like everything maintains moisture and really amazing quality, like into March. We still have to peel some cabbage and stuff, but it really has been a great addition for us.
This is a beautiful cooler.
Yeah, and it was really, the cooler itself was only, with the compressors and everything, was 40.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, but on the other hand, nothing,
Yeah, how big
nowadays.
is this?
I think it's 20 by 24, something, I can't remember, something like that.
Pretty good size.
Yeah, it holds it holds enough stuff. Well, it was a little tight there for a while, but we've been moving a lot of stuff out. So
What made you decide to put it essentially in a barn as opposed to just putting like a rubber roof on top of the cooler box?
Just because it's nice to have this space to like load into that's dry. I just wanted to keep it, I didn't want to get an outside, I don't know, I just like the barn idea. It just seemed like it adds a little bit more longevity to the age of the box.
For sure.
It's not going to get weathered. And in a sense, the barn is a little bit of a buffer to the outside environment. So, especially if it's a really cold, like we really use this cooler mostly for the winter. And so if it's really cold, it's not quite as hard to keep from freezing. And I don't know, it just seemed like I just didn't, I mean, pricing out, I think an outside cooler was probably not as much as putting up the barn, but this also gives us some storage space around the side for all our empty bins. When we empty them of produce, we can stick the bins, stack them up around the sides. So.
And it looks like a barn and not some commercial aluminum box.
Right, exactly. That too. I mean, it's important. Like, we like to have the aesthetics be nice, and so we still, we'll stack, and actually along the side here, because we don't like to put the potatoes right from the field into the cold.
Yeah.
So we'll store them down this hallway. I like the barn idea.
Yeah.
So, and we just had our local refrigeration guys do this, and I was pricing one out on my own and going to do one for like $28,000. I could have gotten the cooler for $28,000 and then had the guys put it in for $4,000 or $5,000.
Yeah.
But then I did some deep research into that cooler, and it was like, and actually my refrigeration guy said, honestly, they put one of that brand of cooler up for another business, not a farm, and they said they spent so much time, all the parts that weren't included, it ended up costing another like $6,000 or $7,000 for the owners.
Oh,
and so they're like, so I just let them price out it, and it just seemed like,
these are the specs you want.
Yeah.
And, it needs to be this size.
And then I don't have to like second guess anything. They know what they're doing. So.
Yeah, right. That's their day job.
There's a lot of, exactly. I'm not, exactly. I'm not a savant on coolers, so, or on anything actually, but it's just, all I do know is I was better asking them to figure it out than me, so.
Yep.
I love the, I love the cooler, and I like the sliding door.
Yeah.
It's nice. And, so for us, it's enough height. We don't need to stack, 3 bins is about all we'd want to do.
Yeah.
So.
You just stack those with the
We have
pallet forks?
Yeah, our tractor with the forks that's up the road.
Yeah. Like right here in front of the door?
Yeah, we'll like stack them here and then roll the door open and use the pallet jack and slide them in by hand. And,
is that got a scale on it?
Yeah, well, we have a replacement scale because I just bought this because I've always, not always, but I'm selling enough stuff by the pallet that sometimes I just decided, for an extra couple $100 I could have a scale.
Yeah.
And for a couple $100 more, you can get one that prints. Actually, you just plug a printer into this one. But I just need to know, like, am I really selling 600 pounds or is it really 300 and I'm charging for 600? I just want to know if that's what I'm doing.
Accurate.
Exactly.
That's the way it's always been. I always sold it by the bin, but
exactly. So I just, we have weighed out bins, but anyways.
Yeah.
So I got the scale on there, and of course the scale was cracked, and they said we just got this a few weeks ago, and they sent us a replacement scale. We just have to pop that out.
Yeah. I haven't seen too many regular pallet jacks with a scale feature. So.
Yeah.
Nice little upgrade.
It costs a little bit more money, but we've gone, of course, like a lot of people, to the plastic macro bins.
Yeah.
I like that over the cardboard, and the wood's good if you can find them, but the plastic's nice because they fold up, and we can just, like you saw, just store them up down there. And we like mostly we get the ones with the drop
front.
side, front, so we can, especially when they're stacked like up 3 high, you don't have to pull the whole stack out. You can just drop that down and like, so be on a ladder. And some, once again, we're only getting a couple hundred cabbages out at a time, so we're not like.
Yeah, you don't need the whole bin.
We don't need the whole bin, but
you don't need to pack boxes to access a few at a time either.
Exactly.
I see. Yeah.
So it's just nice to, it's an extra $20 or $40 on a bin, but You know, we got these from this. I think we got from Nolts, but
Okay.
I mean, lots of people sell them.
Yeah. No, it's nice that you can access it without unstacking. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's super because I mean, you know, if you're doing like wholesale stuff, it's probably not necessary, but you know, and it's nice it folds out so you can just.
Yep.
But you know, for us who like doing, like I said, it's just like little bits of everything all the time.
Yep.
It's just nice to be able to like have easy access and. Especially, I mean, one thing, I'm taller than most of my crew, you know? so like I realize, oh, they're, you know, when you're short, it's harder to get into the bin. You know,
Yeah.
especially like the second stack one, like I can kind of reach in over the top, but those guys, you know,
Right.
it's like, yeah, it's just nice to be able to, you know, little things like if you do it for, you know, think about ergonomic stuff because
Yeah.
the body starts to hurt after doing it for a while.
Well, and right, and you think about things differently when you're, what, 6'2" instead of
Yeah.
5'5".
I do. All the shelving, like if I build shelving, it's always like, why is it so high? It's just
Just
right.
felt right
Yeah,
to you.
that's right, exactly. Oh wait. Yeah, this mower you were looking at, I'm trying to find a way to mow our fence lines better. Like the,
Yeah.
and I'd say it's not the right thing. It's great. I think that mower is great if you have like a electric fence. And you're mowing underneath, like under a wire.
Yeah. Does it
Like-
have a metal blade or strings?
It's
on it?
metal.
Okay. Yeah.
And like,
It's a regular mower head, but it pivots around.
yeah, and so it has
Posts.
a spring on it, so like
Yeah.
it goes around posts and stuff. It just doesn't get close enough for the bittersweet.
This is a cool little head house connected.
Right, so this is our,
Greenhouse
so in the spring we do a lot of bedding plants.
Yep.
And this is our display greenhouse, so we'll start in here and then we have that whole display area out there that we have also outside plants, but this is like specialty annuals and things are in here. We just like, last week we had a bulk sale, like a public, we do our CSA, you know, every week, but we also do like a pre-Thanksgiving sale open to the public. And we also do like a lot of my crew are makers and crafters, and so we have a little craft market, which is really great, but one of the crew makes home greenhouse kits. And so she made that little greenhouse
Little
kit.
demo model there.
Yeah, the demo. And so we're kind of, you know, it's sort of a hodgepodge in here now, but we were set up for that last week, and it's pretty fun. It was a nice, the craft makers market thing is, this is only our second year doing it, but the crew really likes it, I think.
Yeah.
And the customers love it and see because, you know, all these folks have lives outside of here. And,
Yeah.
and so it's good to see what they're doing, like all the folks who work here, what they do, you know.
A show and tell.
Yeah. And they sell a lot of, you know, they sell some stuff, you know,
Yeah.
they're like artists and make jams and, I don't know, yeah, all sorts of things,
Yeah.
whatever. So that's been kind of a new addition. That's been fun.
And they don't have a nice retail space like a
Right.
open, sunny,
Yeah.
heated
Yeah, this is perfect.
display area.
Yeah, for November, it's great. So, but yeah, so we sell plants in here in the spring, and also out there that all gets filled up with plants. So, you know, we grow a lot ourselves, and then we buy in perennials and from a couple different suppliers, and we do a few trees and shrubs and fruit trees, but that part of the tree and shrub thing, I just can't seem to get off the ground. Like in this area, I don't know if it's we don't do a good job bringing the right stuff in, or it's too much competition, or people down around here don't quite garden in that way. There's a lot of people are really into the vegetable and flower gardens, but like trees and shrubs, you know, we sell a few. But so we're recalibrating. My wife Ann helps me with the tree and shrub order, and we're sort of recalibrating what we're gonna sell this year.
Yeah.
Just because we end up selling most of it by the end, but we're watering it for like 3 months and then putting it on sale and then selling it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think that's really a money-making,
Yeah.
endeavor right there.
Maybe not the best use of time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, but you know, the bedding plant part of our business is doing, you know, is still a major part in the spring. It's super helpful for
Yeah.
us.
So how did you get started farming? What got you into it?
Well, as a kid, I grew up in the suburbs, but I've always been sort of an outside kid. I was always fishing when I was a kid, and then I ended up, a long story, I worked for the Green Mountain Club up on the Long Trail, and then ended up working, thought about farming, and ended up through a circuitous route ending up at Walker Farm and worked for Jack and Karen in the 80s and early 90s, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're of course, my mentors, and so I worked for them for a number of seasons, and they were like, oh, Andrew, you should really open up a farm stand, over near Bennington. I don't know if they wanted to get me, like they didn't want me there anymore. No. I think I ate too much of Karen's cooking, and Jack was getting a little bit, he was losing weight, so he needed to get me out of the house. But so anyway, it was a long circuitous route of a couple of years, but this property was the first property I looked at when I was like, oh, I'll drive over to Bennington's. And then I spent 2 years driving around all over the state and in other parts of the Northeast. And I ended up back here because the location's so good, and like a great location. It's a beautiful, like in the summer, it's just a beautiful spot. And the only building here was is our farm stand now. It was an old horse barn. And so I spent the first year renovating that with a friend, and we tore the whole barn apart and redid it, had some professional folks come in and cable it together and pour a cement sill under basically lift it up and pour a small cement sill over the rubble or the stone foundation that sort of stabilized it. And then this guy and I spent over a year really renovating it, putting the porch on, putting a new floor, tearing out a second floor, putting a floor in.
Turning it into a farm stand.
Turning it into a farm stand. And growing stuff at the same time and selling through, just little bits here and there out at a little table. But really, Jack and Karen, really inspired me to sort of do my own, to try it out. And, and this land was also conserved through Act 250. So there's actually like 50 houses. If you went further down this road, there's I think 50 or 60 lots back here.
Oh, wow.
So this piece of land is prime ag land. So this was one of the first Act 250 conservation projects. And when they divided up this property, they made them save this field, and then across the road we have that field there. So so that's kind of how, and I just like being outside. And, I thought I knew a little bit after I left Walker Farm, but I realized I didn't know anything. So I had to start from scratch. And I'm still learning. I know maybe a little bit now, but so I love growing stuff. And honestly, for me, I really love the retail part of the business. And I love interacting with customers most of the time, and I like that sort of direct sale, not even financially, because I'm not sure it's probably better to do something like a CSA, but I love a farm stand, and I sort of model, similar to Walker Farm in some ways, just bringing in other things to sort of make a one-stop farm stand, and so people can come here and really get most of what they need for a meal, and so that was a real important part of what I like to do, and I like the sort of aesthetics of our farm stand and making it really beautiful every day, and and customers seem to respond to that well, and people have been as people have been farming for a long time, it's great when the kids and the grandkids that of the people who are your original customers are shopping here. That's always a nice sign. So
some consistency in the community.
Yep, totally. Yeah.
It's funny, when I was walking around, I was having Walker Farm feelings. There was a certain I don't know, essence that it smelled like. I don't know if it was the variety of greenhouses or the antique stoves,
right?
And some of these really old table sort of things that they've got.
Yeah, that's funny.
I got that feeling.
I try and match their level, but I'm never quite there. But it's always good to have the horizon that you're heading towards, but it's always receding. It's John and Karen, they always take it to the next step. I'm like, oh, guys, you're really making it difficult to keep up.
Well, they just celebrated their 50th year when I
Right.
visited with them last year. So
Yeah.
that's almost a whole nother
I know.
lifetime of yours beyond. So
Right.
yeah,
That's
who knows where you
amazing.
could be in another 20 years.
Hopefully I'm still walking. Harvesting some broccoli occasionally.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What are you excited about in your next year of farming life?
That's a good question. This year was a tough year.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to reboot and see what, let's see, for next year I would, in the next year, I mean, one thing I'm thinking about a little bit is a little bit of my transition of the farm and like, because my son is not going to want to farm, has other interests and our son and my wife's not, she doesn't farm. So, I've been thinking a little bit about what that looks like and been, doing a little bit of networking around that possibly, just starting. Well, I've been starting for 3 years, but I realized I don't want to start when I'm 65 or 70.
It can take a while.
It can take a while, right?
It's complicated.
Yep, just the transition, finding the right person,
Yeah.
like every farm has its own heartbeat and its own rhythm and vibe, and I don't expect someone to come in and do exactly what I'm doing by any means, but there's certain basic aspects to this farm that I would love to see continue.
Yeah.
And so, so I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm really committed to, I want to keep farming for a while, but I'm looking at transitioning,
Yeah.
some stuff. And so, so I wouldn't say that's going to happen next year,
Right.
But it's part of what I've been thinking about. And I'm also, like, next year I'm really interested, we're going to cut back on some things and, just fine tune the bottom line by not overproducing. And it's hard with a retail operation because I don't like the wholesale and I don't have enough stuff to consistently be a wholesaler. So it's like you want to have that, you're sort of walking that fine line of producing enough but not overproducing.
Yeah.
And but there's certain things I could cut back on. So, and a few things I really would like to increase, like our green. I'd love to get away from any outside cucumber growing, and just grow it in the greenhouse, and maybe except for picklers. But I'm working at it, and we're getting better. But I definitely have had some aphid issues on our greenhouse cukes because we net it for keeping cuke beetles out, and it's great on that. But I think it keeps beneficials out, and I keep
Right.
releasing beneficials. But then I think, oh, it's September, or it's July, 8th or 10th. I'm done spending $50 a week on beneficials, and then I'll come in like 2 weeks later, and like the aphids have exploded, or 3 weeks later, and it's like, oh, you really need to keep those beneficials going, like in an environment like that, I think. And I've done I did try growing some banker plants that I learned from Jack and Karen how to do that, but I wasn't as successful in my first year, but I'm going to try again next year and see if we can do that. So I'm excited to kind of keep, learning a little bit more about like banker plants, and we've been using beneficial insects for a long time, but just kind of fine tuning that, and
There's always more to learn.
yeah, always, and and then also I've got some other cover crop ideas and things that I'm thinking about how to rotate my crops a little differently, but like I said, it's only December, so I'm kind of getting my re-energizing for next year.
Right, you're recovering from this year and just starting to get excited
Yeah.
for next. Yeah, I know.
I'm going to try and go to the New England Vegetable Conference. Give me a little kick in the butt.
Some inspiration.
And
Yeah,
some
that's a good one.
inspiration, and at least make it for one day.
Yeah.
But
What was some of the challenges this last season? Just the wetness, or
for the most part, the difficult part was definitely the weather this year. I mean, luckily we don't flood here really, so I have nothing to complain about. But because we're at the very sort of, like I say, it's like the continental divide of Bennington County. So like the field here, all these fields drain north to the Battenkill, and our field to the south drains south to the Roaring Branch or whatever. So, so we're lucky in that way. I mean, when Irene happened, I thought, I went out the next morning, I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then people were like, oh, turn on the news. So, and I realized, we're fortunate. Our fields aren't super flat, a lot of them, and there's a lot of stones and gravel and stuff, but,
it's not all bad in this case.
Not all bad, so, yeah, so I mean, in some ways, it's just we also seem to get lots of rain that other people don't get right here because we're so high up in the mountain just to the west there. I think it just drops rain as it comes over, and so we can get like sort of a little extra water. But some years it's good.
Yeah.
But sometimes it gets to a point where you don't have to be flooded to have effects of too much water.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah, you want to be saturated.
Yeah, we're saturated, and yeah, and this is last year too.
Yeah.
Last year was just crazy. Yeah. So, but we're learning some things and thinking about intercropping a little more. You saw that box cedar, that old McCormick box cedar that you took a photo of down there in the shed. That I definitely seed my roadways now. I mean, I have been for years, but I'm trying to be a little more not forgetting about it or feeling too busy to do it, because it makes a huge difference between our blocks of crops to have a seeded roadway.
What do you seed on a roadway?
We just use annual rye.
Yeah.
Yep, just because it's quick to come up, and it just seems I mean, we could do clover and those things, but we end up generally if we're seeding, if we have 3 or 4 blocks of, we do crops in blocks of 8 beds, so that my sprayer we have a boom sprayer, and even though we're organic, we still spray, and so we have all these roadways, and I don't have permanent roadways there for whatever reason, but so we just it's generally when we're done with that field, we'll till the whole field and put a winter cover crop over the whole field. So annual rye, if it was clover, it would be harder to manage.
Yeah.
But we also do other cover crops, when we do whole 2 or 3 acre fields of covers. Lately we've been really into using either Japanese millet and mix with peas and oats to start, or we'll use sorghum, peas and oats. That sort of seems to be our go-to summer. So then we mow off the peas and oats, and the millet or the sorghum grows up, and we mow that a couple times. I mean, sorghum, millet is becoming a little bit of a problem because you have to keep mowing it so it doesn't go to seed, whereas sorghum, you mow it once or twice and you're good. But with millet, it just seems like it's always ready to go back into seed. And once it goes to seed, it can be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
So I think I'm moving. It's more economical by the acre, I think, than sorghum, but I think we're going to do more sorghum and a little less millet.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Jack and Karen a few times. Do you have any other mentors or people who have been an influence for you?
Oh yeah, well, locally, I mean, Lisa at Mighty Food Farm and Jamie Snyder at Happen Chance Farm, they're sort of my local go-to people. I'm always, just with questions or whatever, if we need something, we share, we'll contact each other. And so it's a nice community of local growers.
That's good.
And then John Satz, before he passed away, was a very close friend, and we would talk all the time about stuff. And then, what I love about Vermont is I can contact any grower and they'll share everything they have. At least I think they will. But people are just so open in this community of growers, and thanks to you and the podcast you're doing. But it also just you can call people up and just learn so much. Just amazing growers. I keep learning from so many people, but it is nice, John, Karen, but I said Lisa and Jamie locally, just to have that resource, and I'm so indebted to them for so many things and ideas and whatever. So.
Yeah, I find that so many farmers you mentioned Lisa. I know she's just a few miles down the road, but you all have your own little niche.
Oh yeah.
She's got a huge CSA.
Right.
You are big on retail, so it's even though you're neighbors, you're not necessarily competition, and everybody in Vermont is kind of over the hill from another farm. It's just far enough away that it works out pretty good.
Yeah, it really does. I think it's one of the great things about Vermont. I think, it's the tide that lifts all boats, right? Like everybody is, I had a friend who went out and started farming in New Mexico, and she was just saying everybody's so secretive out there, and she just wasn't used to it. And whereas here, it's just, I guess some people might still be, but for the most part, it's like, it just, I think there's a sense of community, and you realize like someone's going to help you out too later on, and
right,
and
right.
that's not even doing it for that
directions.
reason, but but it just, I just think there's also partly, Vermont's a great community of customers who support all types of farms.
Yeah.
And so, even though it's a small population, it really is dedicated to supporting local agriculture. So.
Yeah. What advice would you give to your beginning farmer self?
Oh my gosh. I think if I were to, I'd have a little bit more intentional about where I was going. Like partly it's just like there was just so much to do to kind of keep going, and the cash flow wasn't there to have as much help. So, but I think I would be a little bit more, a little more intentional. Like really, like what do I want my life to look like, and I love doing this, and the farm is the tail that wags the dog, in my life, and it's great. But I think I might rethink things in that way, like. And also I just rethink how I put my infrastructure. I'd really rethink it's fairly good flow, and partly we're on this slight hill, so we have like layers of greenhouses as you get up to the next level. So there's certain things that we can't quite control, we just have to go with what's here. But, I just would have reorganized maybe a little bit our retail space. Like this display house would have been where that barn is, and that barn would be back here, so that all the retail space is a little more in front. And I'd rethink my parking, because ends up being that we have a lot more cars than sometimes will fit in our parking lot, which is fine. They park out on that side road. But just little things like that. What else would I say? It's interesting. We did a bunch of like early on we tried growing crops for biodiesel, because John Williamson, who was like the Southern Vermont biodiesel guru, and then I know Heather was doing it, or what's his name, was up north. But we did things like that weren't really what we do, but it sort of felt like, oh, let's try this. And it was just, I think it took away from what I really, what our main focus is. I was like, it was out of my wheelhouse, so to speak. So then like when hemp came around, and like everybody's like, don't you want to grow hemp? I was just like, no. I already lost money and wasted my time doing. If everybody makes it on hemp, fantastic. And I was super happy not to have gotten on that boat, And
there was plenty of things to experiment with within your realm that you didn't need to.
I just need to figure out how to grow melons better. And actually, what I figured out, the best way to grow melons for me is not to grow them. So
it's to buy them in.
It's to buy them in, and I just grow watermelons, because like my cantaloupes, I just couldn't grow like consistently good tasting ones, and I'm not going to like sell to our customers like bland watermelon or bland cantaloupes. Our watermelons are always good, but so anyways, I just stick to what I know. But that would have been my own. Some people would love to experiment and do those, and that's great. It just, for me, it causes me too much stress, and I'm not necessarily the most, I don't know, I don't have quite the right brain for that sort of like, I just want to like do what I know how to do and do it a little bit better every year. And I like doing some new things, but, within reason. So.
What did you envision your farm would look like when you started? Did you have a grand plan, or did you just kind of think, I know I want to do some retail veg and maybe some plant starts, kind of like Jack did?
That's what I thought. I was 28, and So I didn't really, I didn't know what I know now. And so I think it was a little bit looser. That's what I mean. I wasn't really as intentional. And there wasn't necessarily, in 95, there wasn't necessarily the same resources there are now for beginner farmers and ways to think about, like processes to go through to sort of get to a vision. So, it was a little bit more like, throwing, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, And luckily it is retail. Luckily I was, luckily the retail worked here, and because I wouldn't want to do wholesale. That's such a stressful job. Like I've done a few years where I tried doing some wholesale in with our retail, and I found I just couldn't manage it. I'm not that good of a manager. Like so I'm always amazed by people who go like, have a farm stand, 150 acres of vegetables, and they do all these things. Like, oh my God, how do people do that? Like I just don't have that capacity.
Yeah.
Like I'm a little more simple.
It's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's still growing vegetables, but you're marketing it in a whole different way. Like you said, a whole different mindset shift.
Yeah.
Different systems to manage.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just like, for me, it's just like, that's not what like rings my bell.
Yeah.
Or what I have the capacity or the ability to do, really.
Well, that was a good little segue. What rings the bell? What excites you? Or what keeps you going?
So I would say for me, like what I enjoy like I love interacting with the customers, and I really love that it really brings joy to people that like this part of Vermont is a little different than a lot of Vermont. It doesn't have, it may not be quite as funky or have as much going on, but so like a farm stand like this, I think is people really appreciate. I mean, they appreciate farm stands everywhere, but I just think like I like, that I think it's a small but important part of our community, and I like that part. I like to provide that for people, and then I also I was just thinking this morning, like committing myself just a little bit more to like the sort of growth of my employees here, and like what they do and how they interact here, like giving them more, they have a lot of responsibility, but I've just been thinking about that a little bit, like really wanting to keep it dynamic for people who work here, and I'm not sure what that will look like, but that's the idea. And then I have the winter to sort of plan for it, and also talk
being
to my
open about that.
Yeah, and just seeing like what happens, talking also to them, who's people who are coming back, and like what is it that they might want to do that would sort of keep it energized for them,
and keep them coming back another season.
Yeah, keep them coming back another season for sure. But everyone's got their life to lead, and hopefully it's here. But if not, that's okay too.
Yeah.
I still want to make people's experience, like my employees' experience, be positive, and that also for them to feel like, I realize like the field people to really see like how much joy what they do. Like the stand people get all the great feedback, and which is great because they work extremely hard in the farms. I always say the farms, like they're two different worlds, but they're both very demanding jobs. And but it's nice. I just want the folks who work here to feel appreciated, and realize how appreciated they are by our community. So.
What do you do outside of farming that brings you joy, or what do you do to de-stress?
Well, I would say my sort of number one hobby is bird watching. I do it while I'm farming and before I come into work to farm. I love to bird watch and list birds, and I'm pretty into it. So that's a huge part of what I do. And then on my off time, of course, being with my family, and I don't know that there's that much time away from farming, but I love to cross country ski when there's snow, and I can, I saw we can drive to a place, but I love to, like, there's snow here. When we get snow here, I could just go out my house and out of my house, and
Right.
and I I love to read and read books, and also just keep up on farming stuff. So,
It's an addiction.
it's an addiction, yeah.
A lifestyle.
It's a good, yeah. It's like, yeah. There's is Jack. Jack. I love Jack. Lots of Jack Mannix's one-liners, but the last one I heard that I love so much is like, I don't go to work. I go out to my life. And I'm not quite probably quite as hardcore as Jack, but I do love I love farming, but I love bird watching. I love like natural history and just hiking and walking, and I just always like kind of, that's what I do.
Yeah. What does sustainable farming mean to you, and how are you achieving it?
I'm not sure I'm achieving it, but I'm still here. So,
Exactly. You're 30 years in business, so that means something.
yeah, I mean, I think. Oh, I was thinking about that. Like, I'm not a deep thinker in those ways, but I would say, we do. I think having long-term employees who work here for many years and are able to make a living and live in our community and have a life, I think in the last 10 years, the business has gotten to a point where we can afford to do that in a little more substantial way. And before, it was, I think, I'm so glad those folks kept working for me to hang on, but so that's one really important way, is to sustainable for my employees. And, of course, there's like the summer help, and that's a different thing. Folks who just show up and want a 3-month job, picking whatever, that's great too. But really, the commitment that I feel for my long-term employees. Also, I think having our farm, especially now as climate is less predictable and more extremes are happening, really starting to think about ways to grow stuff that is, we don't really have huge erosion like out of the field into rivers, but they might, there might be erosion within a field. Mm-hmm. And so really thinking about how to buffer that effect, and like intercropping, and like I was saying earlier with seeding our roadways, and then just thinking, finally, I think for me personally, like sustainable is, just I'm getting towards 60, and just how I, my body's, when you're 6'4" and you're farming radishes that are under the ground, it's a long way down, and so, just finding ways to sustain like how I manage things so that just I can keep doing it at a level that's, that's not like completely destroying my body as I go along, which when I was younger, I was a little bit more cavalier about it. Mm-hmm. But, so that's like a personal sustainability. And then, I think really just staying abreast of what, I'm not a researcher and things like that, but what folks are discovering about, whether it's nutrient management or, best ways to, heat your greenhouse so it's, using as little fuel as possible or whatever, an electrical, all the energy use that we use. If we can reduce that even 10% a year over a course of a few years, that would be great, because we use a lot of energy here for sure. And this year I noticed we definitely cut back on our diesel use, and I was really thinking about how we were using our tractors. Mm-hmm. And I think, it wasn't a huge amount, but it was noticeable, and so that was, a little bit of a win. And I'm looking at getting some equipment that might really help reduce, because we have fields that are half mile to a mile in each direction, we don't farm like 10-acre blocks. We're doing like 2-acre blocks, and we're going back and forth all the time on the road, and it's a lot of fuel. So, I've been looking at like a stone barrier. If it really does work and as well as they say, it could really reduce our road trips and passes on the field. And if there's other equipment like that, you know, yeah, I think those, and then also just, yeah, I mean, other equipment, I guess that would.
Is there any equipment that you have invested in already that helps reduce your fuel consumption?
Not really.
No.
I mean, because I think I've really been thinking about this last year. Like once
Yeah.
I saw that stone barrier and what it could do, I've been like, oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of stones, and yeah, I mean, yeah, and I mean nothing really yet. We have, you know, we're like a lot of people. We have a perfecta and a disc and a plow and, you know, chisel plow and all these things.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely, I just think, God, we're going over the field so many times. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it would be awesome if we could find a way to reduce even like 30%, you know.
Right.
Even if a stone barrier isn't the dream, if it reduces.
It might not do it all, but it
Right.
might do it for either a couple of crops or whatever. and-
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so that's a, you know, that's an important part of our sustainable,
Yeah.
like looking forward, and sometimes, you know, some years I'm too busy, like I'm just putting out fires, it feels like, and can't do that. But in the winter, I like to think about those things and,
Right.
you know, make plans, and then maybe we can implement one of the 5 that I think about, and then we get better at it the second time we try and implement it. But,
You mentioned how the radishes are so far down. Have you implemented, what kind of things have you changed to ease that burden?
I hire employees to pick.
There you go.
No. Well, you know, I mean, some things that we've done just to like, we transplant so much stuff, and every week we're putting out. So we bought a 3-row transplanter this year, and I know people love the water wheel, but for me, I never seen. I mean, we love the water wheel on plastic, but on bare ground, it just, to me, it's slow, and I never seem to do it the right way. It's just, so we got a 3-row carousel transplanter. We had a 2-row carousel, and the jury's still out. It's like some Italian fancy thing that it is, but I always like to give it a second year on a piece
Yeah,
of
of
equipment and learn stuff, you know. And but it has been really super because it just cut down on our transplanting time tremendously, and the number of people needed. So now it's just a driver and 3 people. And before it would be like 4 or 5 people transplanting, but it would take them, you know, we'd prep the soil, dibble it, and then they would go out and transplant, you know, 1,000 heads of lettuce every week or whatever it is, every 10 days. And now it's just like, we can go out and, yeah, it's just more versatile for us. And, so it's been, I think it's a good, worthwhile investment. I'm not 100% yet.
Yeah, right.
Because
Yeah.
I liked we had an old carousel transplanter that was not perfect. So I have to remember that, but I'm not sure it was worth the money for this one, but I'm still learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not a great gearhead, you know. It takes me a while to like figure stuff out. So.
Yeah.
Some people are really adept at that, but that's not me.
Do you have any advice for a beginning farmer getting into it now?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. You know, I just think it's a tremendous amount of work, you know, like, and I think everybody, you know, but I would definitely work on other farms first, and maybe a variety of farms, and see different ways to do things. And then, you know, if you're just to get, I mean, I don't think anyone would go cold turkey and just start without having done it, but I just mean, like, it's, you know, just to like there's so many different ways to farm. I mean, everybody does their own style and has their own techniques and systems, and there's so many amazing systems out there, you know. I think especially now, there's just so many different ways to do it well, and to go and see what resonates with you, you know. And I also think, you know, I mean, everyone says it, but having your market first, you know, like having an idea how you're going to sell something is, of course, always great before we start, you know. I'm not sure I have any great advice for people. I just think it's hard work, and if you love doing it, you'll find a way to make it successful, I think. So.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. Is there anything else that I didn't bring up that you wanted to share?
There's so much to learn in farming, like in the resources that we have. It's hard because we get so busy during the season. It's really hard to go and and sort of utilize and take advantage of like farm tours and things like that. But every time I do, I'm always so like, I should do this every month, you know? It's so worth like 4 hours to get off the farm and go to another farm and see what they're doing. And it's just it's a great, and it's so energizing too. Like I always find that like, when I do that, I come back like, okay, you know, like, let's go. I saw this great farm and, you know, let's try and match that, you know, or do something like that.
I totally resonate with that. And I don't know why, like, but just like seeing somebody, like even if you didn't pick up a certain thing,
right,
it still energizes you to see somebody else just
right
doing it too.
And it's, you know, it's always great to talk to people who have sort of, I mean, it's every farm is its own experience and its own way, but there's like obviously the commonality and to have that, you know, just like with Jamie and Lisa, you know, even if we just like have nothing in particular, but just to pick up the phone and just like,
hey, how's
chat,
it going?
Yeah, it's like, I find like, it's just like uplifting, you know, to kind of connect with people in that way, you know,
Yeah.
and other farmers who are doing it. It's just, for whatever reason, you know, there's like that great camaraderie, and I really, you know, it's super part of the job. I love that part. But.
And that was the Farmer's Share. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Andrew Knafel of Clearbrook Farm. The Farmer's Share is supported by a grant offered by the USDA Specialty Crop Block Program from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food, and Markets. This funding helps to cover some of my time and travel in order to produce this podcast until March of 2026. The USDA Agricultural Marketing Service supports projects that address the needs of U.S. specialty crop growers and strengthens local and regional food systems. I have no doubt that this podcast will meet those needs and help educate growers to support the industry. If you enjoy this show and want to help support its programming, you can make a one-time or reoccurring donation on our website by visiting thefarmershare.com/support. This show is also supported by the Ag Engineering Program of the University of Vermont Extension. We also receive funding from the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association. The VVBGA is a nonprofit organization funded in 1976 to promote the economic, environmental, and social sustainability of vegetable and berry farming in Vermont. Their membership includes over 400 farms across Vermont and beyond, as well as about 50 businesses and organizations that provide products and services of all types to their members. Benefits to members include access to the VVBGA listserv to buy, sell plants and equipment, share farming information, and tap the vast experience of our growers. Access the community accreditation for produce safety, also known as CAPS. This program is designed for growers, by growers, to help you easily meet market and regulatory food safety expectations. You can access the VVBGA's soil health platform, where you can organize all the soil tests and create and store your soil amendment plans and records. Access to webinars for growers in the VVBGA annual meeting. An email subscription to the Vermont Vegetable and Berry newsletter. Camaraderie, enhanced communication, and fellowship among commercial growers. Memberships are on a per farm, per calendar year basis, and annual dues this year are $80. These funds pay for the organization's operating costs and support educational programs and research projects. These funds also support projects that address grower needs around ag engineering, high tunnel production, pest management, pollinators, produce safety, and soil health. Become a member today to be a part of and further support the veg and berry industry. You can visit thefarmershare.com to listen to previous interviews or see photos, videos, or links discussed from the conversation. If you don't want to miss the next episode, enter your email address on our website and you'll get a note in your inbox when the next one comes out. The Farmer's Share has a YouTube channel with videos from several of the farm visits. We're also on Instagram, and that's where you can be reminded about the latest episode or see photos from the visit. Lastly, if you're enjoying the show, I'd love it if you could write a review. In Apple Podcasts, just click on the show, scroll down to the bottom, and there you can leave 5 stars and a comment to help encourage new listeners to tune in. I'd also encourage you to share this episode with other grower friends or crew who you think would be inspiring for them. Thanks for listening.